Well, it would hardly be a week at a satellite show without chatting to the guys who make a lot of the satellites that are up there. This is Oliver from Airbus Defence and Space. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Yeah, nice having me.
Okay. So, Oliver, can you just very briefly let me know how active is Airbus in the building of satellites? How many have you got up there, and in different orbits, different sizes? Like, can you give us a picture?
Can I count? I'm not prepared for having the full bet, but
ballpark
we're
is
literally
fine.
everywhere. We're in geo orbit, where every year we're launching about 14 satellites, be it in geo or now with LEO, with OneWeb, which you see right next to us here. We have 32 satellites per launch, and we're partnering the OneWeb satellites business. So we're producing 1.5 satellites per day. So from that perspective, many.
Okay. And what's buzzy right now? I know a lot of people are talking about LEO, but GEO is still a massive player. So what's going on let's start there. What's going on in the GEO and the very high throughput sort of stuff?
I think that GEO is underestimated because everybody's now focusing on these mega constellations. But we have a new product on GEO, which is the OneSat, which we're rolling out the first time. We have passed design. We will start to deliver the first ones. We have already 3 of them sold, customers, contracts being signed. This is a really interesting product because it's configurable. It's very, very flexible in the way how we can operate it, such that we believe it's perfectly fitted for very, very flexible applications, and then enabling the operators to have a wider range of applications with one product.
Do you think it's correct, or that I would be correct in saying that sort of a multi-orbit, multi-spectrum, maybe even approach is suitable for the aero sector?
Well, I think that Aero is probably a product which is not perfectly fitting into GEO, but Aero is a great, let's say, extension of the overall capabilities. I honestly believe that we will see activities in LEO, we will also see activities in MEO and in GEO, and on top of that, let's not forget that we have a product which is a service, the Space Data Highway, where we can offer optical data link connectivity, high bandwidth, which is also connecting LEO to GEO to Earth. So it's going to be the whole ecosystem. We're going to see GEO satellite as well as LEO and MEO. Because we're seeing that there is still, despite the events right these days, there is still a booming market on the aircraft sector. So you have how many? 14,000 aircraft being up in the air and flying around that number. So all of them, just imagine you could connect them to have really an air traffic management, which is considering the details of every of those flights. So that's one very, very big asset where we believe that constellations are well positioned in order to serve that market. And we need to resolve some technical issues, how to connect to the aircraft while flying, and how to do that for 14,000 customers, and what's the capacity that we need for that. But that's an extremely interesting starting point. And then, of course, you have the in-flight entertainment, where we need to talk about that as well, right?
Do you see the demand for in-flight entertainment, the passenger use case, on the increase?
Well, I was just flying over here from Europe, and it's just annoying to see that I still pay prices per minute, and the whole thing is small bandwidth, and it really doesn't really work, right? So from that perspective, there is really something that needs to happen. If you're flying a lot in a global business, I think it's absolutely mandatory to have a seamless connectivity. Technological capabilities are there, but we need to roll it out, and we need to see, the operators need to see whether it makes sense in terms of the business case.
Okay. Let's get really technical now. Is there a development in terms of chips or components and things like that go into your satellites that you think is going to really shake things up or change things or really improve it?
I talked about this software defined. What does it really mean? It means that you're no longer having these hardwires links, but you're having a high-performing computer on board of the satellites, which basically allows you to do all this coordination stuff of your payload via software, so reconfigurable even when it's up there in space. And this performance leaps that we've been seeing over the last years is just gigantic. It's very much comparable to what you see in your mobile phone. So I'm predicting that we will have similar capabilities in space that we have today on Earth when it comes to terrestrial user terminals.
Excellent. Okay, now talking about things that are in space, there's a lot of stuff in space, and there's a lot of plans to put a lot more stuff in space. So the panel that I just sat in on that you were participating in was called Driving Responsible Behavior in Space. So can you tell me a little bit about the coalition that's looking to develop a sustainability rating system for operators?
It's an initiative that was started by the World Economic Forum, their Technology Council, we were on board from the first minute because we were saying we really have let's say, an increased issue that we have a lot of satellites and other infrastructure up there in space, which basically means that you will create debris. Now, debris is really a worrying topic for any satellite operator, because it will be on positions where you want to be. It will be in your way. It may even hit you and destroy you. So we need to do something on that. So we said, rather than waiting for a legislation that will force people to do something, let's start with something where we're just rating. Are you, let's say, a responsible operator? And if so, which criteria are that? And since we didn't want to invent them ourselves, we've asked MIT, the European Space Agency, as external experts and scientists, if you want, to make a recommendation. We are just in this process to work the project. It's really exciting.
I think it's great because, airline passengers are becoming more aware of even where the airline sources their food and beverage from, where are my amenities from, things like that. So I could see a point in the future where that could become a USP for an airline, and say, hey, we're responsible in space as well as with the organically farmed food that we're serving you.
We believe that everybody needs to evaluate his ecosystem step by step and try and understand what can I do to improve the overall situation. And although it's not very visible for many on Earth, space today is such an important part for our life on Earth that you have to factor it in. So just imagine what would happen if we wouldn't have space anymore. No navigation. So even for the pilots, which are tending to fly with GPS more and more, you do not have the communication skills. So this is the most visible. All of that is relying on satellite. Weather data. Where do I fly? When do I fly? Can I avoid the thunderstorms and stuff like that? All these are data that we inevitably need to be more sustainable. And all those can be connected and then processed via artificial intelligence.
Excellent. Okay, and then finally, you talked about a harpoon.
Yeah.
In the on the panel, the harpoon to net the space junk, get it out of the way.
Absolutely.
What's this?
It's a British harpoon. That's a cool thing. Yeah. No. When in terms of this space debris problem, we were not just talking and thinking about the problem, but also how to resolve it. So there was a little test that we've been doing with the support of the European Union, where basically we put some debris and also a tool to resolve it from space station into orbit, right? And then this harpoon was fired from an actuator to the target to see whether it could link in, and then afterwards you're establishing a connection between the debris and the guy who's chasing, in order to then move it away and to resolve it. So that sounds very archaic, but indeed it was a very, very high-tech experiment.
Yeah.
And I love to see the videos. Yeah, go on the net. You see the videos on the net.
Yeah, we'll be looking for the videos for that. It's very cool. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today, Oliver.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure.